Hello, Bruce Wayne again with one of my adventure stories. So while I was in Rock Hall, I really learned how to cook, not perfectly, but reasonably decent in order to survive there. And there are a few foods that I ate that were quite dangerous to prepare. So I wanted to just give you a sense of some of the dangers that were involved in basic day-to-day activities. Now, 3 foods that I actually learned how to prepare. Let me just read directly the science behind it. So number 1 is ackee. The ackee is the national fruit in Jamaica. But one of the things about preparing ackee is that if you do it incorrectly, actually it can be quite dangerous. They typically cook ackee with salted codfish, and it's quite a delicious dish. But preparing it wrong can have detrimental consequences. So let me read to you some of the dangers of preparing an ackee incorrectly so you can understand some of the danger to an 8-year-old boy. So ingesting unripe ackee fruit may result in metabolic syndrome known as Jamaican vomiting sickness. Clinical manifestation may include profuse vomiting, altered mental status, and hypoglycemia. Severe cases have been reported to cause seizure, hypothermia, which means your temperature-related issues, coma, and death. Medical treatment is primarily supportive care with intravenous fluid and dextrose. So let me read that last line. Medical treatment primarily is supportive. So in other words, typically, they really don't have a solution for ackee because of the dangers of it. So, doing it wrong can create some serious problems, including you dying, and especially an 8-year-old boy, I'm sure eating ackee and doing it wrong, I could have actually been dead, been killed. Another fruit or spice that we used a lot there was nutmeg. And typically what happens is that you'd have some tea and then you sprinkle a little bit of nutmeg on there, and that's how you do it. And but according to the research by the International Program on Chemical Safety, nutmeg intoxication resembles intoxication with profuse sweating, flushed face, delirium, dry throat, etc. There's always an altered state of mind, such as hallucinations, confusion, and impending state sense of doom. The study also explained how much is considered toxic, saying that 1 to 3 nutmeg, or 5 to 15 grams, which is basically 1 to 3 teaspoons, is reported to be a toxic dosage. This intoxication usually passes within 24 hours. However, in some cases, psychosis may set in. And the psychosis can last up to actually 6 months. So what is psychosis? Psychosis is basically being detached from reality. So imagine being completely out of your mind for 6 months. I mean, that's just scary thought. And the only reported death that they said, based on the study, is that it was that of an 8-year-old boy. Well, guess what? I was 8 years old, so maybe just the dosage was a lot for such a small body. So that was another case of foods that I actually had to prepare. And the third one is cassava. Now, cassava, typically known to South Americans as yuca, we used to use that a lot in Jamaica. It's basically, you dig it out of the ground as kind of a root, and then you would cook it, and then typically after you cook it, you'd mush it out in a cloth and you'd wring it out. And the water from that came out of it, it was very, very starchy. And so you could use the water to make starch that you use to starch your actual clothes. And then the actual leftover, that floury part of it, you could use that to make what is called bami. And bami is basically sort of like a bread, but just tastes a hell of a lot better. But preparing cassava incorrectly actually is very dangerous, and I'll read exactly what it says. It says, cassava may contain cyanide and must be processed before consumption. Even soaking the product for a few hours will make a difference. Otherwise, unprocessed bitter cassava can kill you if it's consumed in insufficient quantities. And so those are 3 of the actual foods that I actually had to prepare. So being in Rock Hall by myself, and a lot of times I really was by myself, because even though I had all my siblings around me, you know, typically I don't quite remember where they were, whether they went to continue to attend school or not. I just remember that there are many times that I'd wake up and everybody would be gone and I'd be alone by myself. And I think in the beginning there was an expectation that you know, I'd go to school as well. So everybody was gone and I was there. And when I stopped going to school, I had lots of time on my hand. And so if I needed to cook some food, well, then I had to do it myself. And so I had to be very careful, listen to everyone around, give an instruction to make sure that I was doing things very carefully. One of the other things that was very interesting at the time was just how organic everything was. If you were making tea, you'd simply put a pot of water on the stove, and then you just go down the gully. We call, I'm not saying the gully, but we also call the area that we live the gully right there. And you just reach over a few feet over, and you could get some mint and throw it in the pot. Or you can get some orange leaf and you can throw it in the pot. And we have different kind of mints there as well. And you could, you know, there were coffee plants there, which we didn't drink coffee, but there was just lots of different variety of things you can use to make teas there. And so, you know, when people talk about organic, everything was organic there. It was just the way nature made it.